Well, hello everyone, and welcome to A Garden Life. Today it's all about our fall rituals, yours and mine, because finally it truly feels like autumn. It's been kind of a fake fall so far. It's been unseasonably hot and dry, but boy, all of that has changed in the past week. So let's break out some of those fall projects, some of those fall rituals. Let's make our spaces comfy and cozy, a little cottage hygge, if you will. So what do you say, Stuart?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's talk. Let's have a casual conversation while I am making a dried hydrangea wreath. Now, actually, let's do catch up a little bit. First of all, number one, we didn't do signature style Saturday. Yesterday, we did put up a new video, but Stuart is pretty sick, aren't you, Stuart? He's he's pretty congested. We're staying far apart from one another. This isn't going to be a long video, but he doesn't think he is infectious anymore, and finally he feels good. So all of you out there, wish him well. So I think it's just a bad cold. Secondly, a lot of you have been asking about Leah again. Most of you know that she has some other opportunities, some styling and some acting opportunities that she has moved on to because she just didn't have time to do multiple things. I do have someone who is going to be starting with me. She's going to help me primarily with my book and a few other things, and we will introduce her to you at a later date. But she has not started yet because guess what? She also lives in a historic home, and the archway over her front porch, she was unloading groceries, and from about 10 feet above, a brick fell out of that archway and hit her in the head. God love her. It broke her scalp open. There was blood everywhere, and she's had a concussion for the past couple of weeks. Now, she is fine now. And okay, I need to concentrate on what I'm doing and not just gossiping with you guys. Okay, so I went down to the basement and I pulled out a store-bought really thick wreath, which I'm going to show you. I've now got it hanging on my front window. I'm not going to go overboard, but to me, all of the Halloween decorations have come down, and I really like to have a few things in place for Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is my favorite time of the year, and I don't put out Christmas decorations until after Thanksgiving, since Thanksgiving isn't until November 28th this year. My sister Terry's birthday is going to be late, and because of that, I'm going to be able to enjoy these autumnal touches for a longer period than I normally would. So I went down to the basement. I got a really thick store-bought vase, store-bought wreath, grapevine wreath. In fact, Stuart, follow me. And I tucked in some hydrangeas, and I now have it hanging on my front door. Now, I deliberated as to whether or not I really wanted it to be hydrangeas. Stuart, let's switch places so they can see a little bit better. I deliberated on whether or not I wanted to have hydrangeas entirely surrounding the grapevine, and I decided no. I just liked having them at the base, so it's kind of bottom heavy. I did tuck in some of the beautiful oak leaf hydrangea foliage because the coloring is so beautiful, and then I just took an old kind of a butter colored ribbon and wound it around, and then I've just got a few tucked in here along with some rose hips. So it doesn't look overweight, I think, for the front door. It does just what I want it to do. I'm also trying to really get, come on in, Stuart, a little bit more of a minimalist vibe, which I think is somewhat more appropriate for the cottage than at my other house. So I'm putting out just some kind of small Thanksgiving season type touches, like this beautiful wheat sheath. I got this years ago at Lowe's and I've kept it. I put a beautiful satin ribbon on it and I've had it for years. The mice have not gotten to it, thankfully, and I think it looks appropriate here, especially because, as I've shared with you, unless something changes, I believe here in the parlor, I'm going to transform it into a dining room. So what I did was I just moved one of those cachepos of dried hydrangeas over to this mantle. This will hold its own until Thanksgiving. And then I wanted just a couple of other autumnal touches. So this is what I'm doing now. Also in the basement, I had a couple of homemade vine wreaths. I've showed you how to make these before, and all you do basically is just take any kind of vine and greenery, you wrap it around, and you just kind of wrap it upon itself, and it makes a wreath form like this. I like these because these are a little bit more delicate. They're not quite so massive, and they really don't require, I don't think, as many flowers to make them really look special. Plus, again, I'm kind of going for that Swedish, more minimalist look. Now, all I'm doing is just taking the flowers that I have cut and even some of the greenery. So you may think once you've used the flower that you would discard this stick with just the leaves, but oh no, I like to keep it because then it kind of softens what I've already got in place. And by the way, this is one of those kinds of projects where you just really don't know when you're finished. You just keep messing with it. You notice I've got a tarp on my table to contain some of the mess. And then I'm just tucking in these hydrangeas. And this isn't, this isn't brain surgery, you guys. You know how to do this. But what I have discovered is just because I've done something before, it doesn't mean that I'm going to remember to do it again, or that I have done it in the past. And I think what this does is it just reminds us all that every day we can be creative with things that are just growing in our own home. What I like about this too is when you've got smaller wreaths like this, or you just decide to decorate the top or the bottom, you don't have to use, as I said earlier, as many dried hydrangeas, which means that if you don't have a whole hedge of them in your garden, you've just got a few, or you can snag a few from a neighbor or a friend, then you still have enough to make a wreath. So let's take a break here, come back, and we'll decide where we're going to hang this. Okay, I'm just going to tuck a last one in here. I mean, these come together really quickly, you guys. And I don't want too much on these. Again, I'm kind of going for a minimalist vibe. Now, one thing I could do...
It almost looks like it grew like that.
Yeah, well, it kind of does. One thing I could do is I could hang a couple of these on the sconces, hanging on either side of this massive painting. And I think that's kind of a fun thing to do. And I might make another one to hang down on that side. Or I can also, and I love this technique, and that is to just make one and kind of hang it over the edge of something. In this case, I'm just hanging one over the edge of this mirror in the entryway. So as soon as you walk in, you see it, and it doesn't even obstruct anyone from looking at themselves in the mirror if they're putting on their hat, or they're just, checking out their makeup or their hair. And I think it looks really, really pretty, especially because I put in a flattened, dried fern frond. That is hard to say. A flattened, dry fern frond, kind of just arching out over the silhouette of the wreath itself, kind of like a feather would. And by the way, a feather would look really cool there. So I think that's beautiful. And then I also have not only a massive bouquet of hydrangea on the mantle, but I have now a massive bouquet on the island that I moved from another location. And I also took off the greenery that was on my gilded pumpkin stand, and I tucked a few of the smaller ones into the plate stand that now is holding those beautiful pumpkins. So it's just kind of, again, that rhythm and repetition of one thing across a space, and in this case that space is my parlor and my kitchen. And if you walk this way, Stuart, here from the hallway you can see that I've also got,
Is this the one from?
this
Forever
is,
Ago?
yes, this is the one from Forever Ago.
This is the one that I always try to destroy.
Yeah.
It's so,
No, actually, this is a different one.
It's so
But
pretty.
yes, this is the Tara hydrangea one that is just, it's like,
That's the best.
it's
that
just
one's
like crispy butterscotch. It is just
So pretty.
insane. I've
Yeah.
had this for
Wow.
several years. And by the way, if there's one that I want to keep from one year to the next, I do cover them with plastic so when I put them up.
That's
so
art.
that they, yeah, it really is, so that they don't get too dusty. Now, will I eventually have to do away with it? Because, yeah, it will get a little bit decrepit, but not yet. Okay, let's take a break and we'll be back. Okay, now I don't know that this is a ritual, but for me it's definitely a practice. And that is, I really do try to up my exercise game and everything, especially before Thanksgiving, for obvious reasons. And I want to kind of, I don't know, set my holiday season routine. And because of that, as you guys know, I've been using the Better Me app. I demonstrated it in a previous video, and at some point I will demonstrate it again. Now, and by the way, this is not a sponsored post. I did purchase that app on my own, but when they saw that I had done a review on it, they sent me some things, and I'm just opening this box right now. So looks like they are sending me a yoga block. If any of you out there are a yoga practitioner, you probably know what this is, but they have sent me one of those. They have sent me, oh, do you guys know what this is? A recovery foam roller. This is your best friend, especially if like your thighs or your hips really hurt after working out. Yeah, this is really, really wonderful. What else did they send me? They sent me, oh, some stone gray. I guess these are just weights. Oh, and it glides over stubborn knots in your muscles. So this is
like
also,
tennis ball, yeah.
so this is a recovery item. And this must be too. This is another stone gray recovery ball, and I'll have to really look into all the best practices for how to use this. Now, here's a tease. I have a friend who, she's been a friend for years, and she is also a hand therapist. Her name is Patty, and she is going to be a guest on our show. I'm not sure exactly when, but probably in the next 3 weeks, because those of us that garden a lot and have gardened for years, some of us may be starting to experience arthritis in our hands. I know I have golfer's elbow, and I believe I'm starting to get arthritis in this hand, and she is going to show us some of the best supports you can buy for that. Also, some hand exercises and things that we can do so that the strength in our hand and the mobility and function of our hands are not diminished. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned for that if you, like me, are starting to get a little cranky, crackly in your joints. Okay, I think this is a fun thing. You guys, I'm sure, no doubt do it yourself. And that is, there are two things that are ritualistic for fall baking and cooking for me. One is we kind of celebrate our very first pot of chicken and dumplings, but it has to be cold enough outside to do that. And then secondly is I always kind of celebrate my first batch of pumpkin bread. And if you have followed me, you know for years I have used this same gorgeous autumnal loaf pan, and I will be making it, and I'll show you the finished product. I have not baked any yet, but I'm getting getting ready to get started on that. And we will put a link to the recipe that I'm going to use, this healthy pumpkin bread. But that's kind of a ritual that we do, and then I'll probably set a pretty table in the parlor window or something, have one of my besties over for tea and a slice of delicious pumpkin bread. Here's my question of the day. Do you guys have a special pumpkin bread recipe? And if so, do you or do you not put nuts in it? Because to me, if you don't put nuts in it, it's almost not worth baking. So there you go. There's my question of the day. Okay, let me share my outfit of the day with you, because I think it's really important that when you are doing all of this puttering around your homes that you are comfortable. And for me, this kind of is my typical attire. So not a very fancy outfit of the day, but boy, it sure is comfortable. Now, I got this shacket, which is just kind of a combination of a shirt and a jacket. If you're hip, you know that, Stuart. You were looking at me. You were looking at me like I'm crazy. But this is flannel. I'm really having trouble with my words today, you guys. This is flannel, and what I love about it is, look, it has pockets. So it is just, it's really wonderful. I don't worry about ironing it. I don't worry about any of that. I just kind of throw it on over a t-shirt. And then I've just got these kind of joggers with pockets too, because I love everything with pockets.
Basically what I wear around my house.
Yeah. And because why not be comfortable? And then because my feet do hurt when I'm just standing on them all of the time. I'm not somebody that likes to sit, so I like these thick-soled kind of boots slash slippers. I've showed them to you before. But share with me if you've got kind of a uniform that you wear when you're baking and cooking and puttering, especially when it's grizzly out, because I think it's kind of fun to know what people are wearing behind the scenes. Okay, as I'm standing here, Stuart, and yes, that sound you are hearing is rain. It has started to rain again. You can hear it outside, but I'm taking one of these wreaths, and you know where I think it will look spectacular?
I agree.
Is right there. So I might have to get, can you see? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I might have to get a command strip and hang it right there, because I think that would look really, really beautiful if you're trying to make your home look autumnal and Instagram worthy. So let's take a break here, and we'll be right back, and I'm going to show you and tell you about something that I have been working on and that you guys have been asking me about. Okay, another fall ritual for me is just subtly rearranging furniture so that it best suits our winter and cold season lifestyle. And so you may notice that my desk that used to be in here, that belonged to my grandfather, is not here any longer.
Oh, I didn't even notice. That's cool.
Yeah, this is just my temporary desk. It's just a side table that I've got here until another change takes place. But I'm rearranging a lot of things here in my office. Why? Because I'm doing it as I am working on my book project. And you guys have been asking me, what is this book project that I'm working on? Well, here's a kind of a Cliff's Notes version of what it is. And that is, it's kind of an anthology of all the different kinds of seasonal tips and secrets and practices that I share with you through this channel, through Instagram, and just on my various media platforms. So what it is garden-inspired living day by day. So there's going to be as many as, I'm thinking now, close to 200 seasonal tips that are short, sweet, most of them inexpensive, but all of them, I think, with a thematic of charm and graciousness and a little bit of DIY, but things that hopefully are all life enhancing. And if you don't believe me, look here, this is what I'm working on. So I am, this is my big spreadsheet that I am working through, and every day I try to work on it a little bit. So that's also part of my fall ritual, is working on this book, because I've got a deadline in December. So lots of different moving parts around the cottage here. Sometimes if we don't always have new content for you, it's because we've got other projects in the works. But namely, Stuart and I wanted to share with you that some of you have been saying, oh, well, I've seen that video before, and I don't think we've ever really acknowledged that what we're trying to do is put up repeats, reruns, if you will, on Mondays, and they will be seasonal repeats, because we know from the YouTube people that we work with that 2/3 of our audience don't see each individual one that we put up. So for some of you it might be a rerun, but there's
For most of you it's not.
For most of you it's not. For a whole population of you out there, subscribers and non-subscribers a lot, there's a whole lot of you that have not seen these videos with, I think, kind of compelling information in them.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Because we have a lot of content people haven't seen, and we want people to see it.
So as another part of our Let's Catch Up, to reiterate, Saturday is Signature Style Saturday. On Sunday, it's This Garden Life, or This Garden Life Inside, if not outside. Monday, we will put kind of a throwback or a rerun, just like your old network TV reruns, if you will. I will typically try to hop on and make some reflections and observations on that was then and this is now. And then on Wednesday, we'll be doing our traditional Wednesday walkabout, and hopefully, at least a couple of times a month, we will put up that podcast type interview format that you have seen, called Let's Talk Tuesday. And I'm excited to share a guest that we've got coming up. I'm not even going to share his name yet, but he is someone that, if you are my age, internationally, he is someone you would recognize. So that's kind of exciting for me. So that's just a little tease. Okay, so what did you do with your desk, you may ask? Okay, so my grandfather's desk that was in here has been relocated, and forgive me if the light is a little wonky because we're just moving from place to place. It now, voila, is Hub's bedside table, because I just thought that this dark wood matched this room a little bit better. He needed a table that was somewhat larger, and this one will also have a drawer in here for him. He just needs a little bit more space. And so in my typical fashion of stealing from Peter to pay Paul, I not only do that in the garden, I do that in my home as well, and this is the most recent example of that. And now, for what I am reading, what I am watching, what I am listening to, let's start with this. It was so compelling. It was so entertaining. I just ripped right through it while I was out getting my 10,000 steps a day. And that is Minka Kelly's Tell Me Everything. And Minka Kelly, I was not familiar with her. She is an actress that was in Friday Night Lights and some other things. And boy, did she have let's just say an unusual and very challenging childhood growing up. And this is all about that. And it was really, really fascinating. And it goes to show, I think, that you should never assume anything about anyone just on superficial or first impressions. So it's Minka Kelly's Tell Me Everything. I listened to it on my Libby app on my phone, and I would highly recommend it if you are into audiobooks. Okay, now what I am physically looking at. Some of these are also gifts. I got several of these Burn After Reading, and what it is a journal. This would be great for kids in their young teens or in high school, their angst-riddled years, but also if you're a young mom or something. And what it is it's a journal, but it asks you very pointed questions that serve as prompts for your writing. So, okay, just interesting little things. Like the first song to come into my head right now is, if I were to win the lottery, this amount would be enough. if I could pick up the phone right now and call one person living or dead, it would be, and the entire thing is just all those kind of prompts. And I think this would just be a wonderful, wonderful way for us to get more self-knowledge about ourselves, starting at a young age, which I think is really, really important. Again, this would make a great stocking stuffer. I bought several of these to give to, preteens in my life, and I think it's just a really wonderful gift idea. Okay, the other one that I got is a gift for myself. I just got this. Again, I typically look at books at a bookstore or my library first to see if it's one that I want to be part of my permanent collection. And this one by Leanne Ford, The Slowdown, definitely is one that after perusing it, I really wanted it to be part of my permanent collection. And when I'm looking at these kinds of books, I'm not necessarily looking at them from a decorative art standpoint or an interior design standpoint, but for their words, but also for just inspiration, for color inspiration, for compositional inspiration. I'm always looking for vignettes or things in these books that in some way are familiar to me. In other words, they kind of replicate a similar situation that I might have here at the cottage, and it gives me ideas to kind of think outside the box and decorate or style my house in different ways. So this one I highly recommend. It's on sale now. I just bought it for myself for the love of home. Leanne Ford's The Slowdown, and we will put a link to this. Another book that I may have showed you in the past, but I wanted to revisit it because, again, there's a lot of things in here that replicate some of the interior furnishings and things that I already have. And I might, for example, I might look at a picture like this and think, okay, that kind of reminds me of my back great room. Mine is far more layered than this, and if I wanted to transform it, I could then take lots of those layers away and I could get a much cleaner look like this. Though this is beautiful, it doesn't seem quite as warm to me, but nevertheless it gives me different ideas and different options, different kinds of color palettes. And of course, if I see a topiary anywhere, it catches my eye and I think, ooh, I could place a topiary in that position. So this book is also one I highly recommend. I may have shown it to you before, I'm not sure. It's Caitlin Fleming and Julia Goebel's Sense of Place. And we will put links to all of these below. Lastly, what I am watching. I've watched a number of different things, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but another fall ritual for me is I am not one that starts listening to Christmas music until after Thanksgiving. I'm kind of a purist in that way. But because I have the opportunity to putter inside on rainy days like this, one thing I do indulge in, especially because we're all so stressed out now about the election and we're trying to watch anything besides the news if humanly possible, and I've been watching old, really bad, really stupid Hallmark Christmas movies. And it's fun to watch them through the lens of, oh my gosh, look at the disconnect between the real season when they shot it and what they are pretending to be the winter season there. Oh yeah, and just how bad the acting is. And we can all, if that's another question of the day, we can all nominate which one is the worst, which one is the absolute worst. So I watched that. Another show that I absolutely recommend. I cannot wait for the next season. I've heard so many people are in love with this show, and that is, I believe it's on Netflix, Nobody Wants This. And it is a romantic comedy with Kristen Bell, and forgive me, I do not know the name of the actor, but it is the actor who makes it. That and the brilliant dialogue and screenwriting, it is just wonderful. So if you want to consume something that's very, very worth the binge, then I definitely recommend it. It's on Netflix and it's called Nobody Wanted This. I hope it's on Netflix. I'm 99% sure. And by the way, Hubs loved it. It was a sleeper. I did not expect to enjoy it. I thought it was just going to be another classic, very typical kind of stupid rom-com kind of thing, but it wasn't. It was very good and it was very, very compelling. And then I've watched a number of sundry different documentaries that I just find interesting. So there you go. That is what I am reading, listening to, and watching.